Can you like move your arm? Perfect. Okay. It's dark, but it's okay.
Good evening, everybody. Very happy to see you all here. Thank you for attending.
Yeah, we need to tell us something.
I have a pretty easy to do. Okay. So thank you all for attending today. I'm going to hand my over to Melissa from the city. I got a note. She has a few brief words to say before we get going on the presentation.
Thank you, Heidi. Hi, everyone. My name is Melissa Hurtado. I'm the Assistant City Manager with the City of Thousand Oaks. I just wanted to welcome you and thank you for being here. The City of Thousand Oaks takes wildfire safety very seriously, and we're very happy to have subject matter experts here to discuss this matter. And if you are interested in more information about the city's emergency services effort, we do have representatives here, Graham Watt, to have more information. But we really just wanted to thank you for taking the time out of your busy days to be here and listen to this information. So I'll hand it over to Heidi. Here you go.
Thank you. Okay, so we have a busy day lineup to get through, and just a little background information so you're not wondering who is talking to me right now. My name is Heidi Orloff, and I work for the Ventura County Resource Conservation District. We are an organization that is a member of the Ventura County Wildfire Collaborative, and you might be wondering, well, what is the Wildfire Collaborative? We're going to get into that in just a moment. But first, I'm going to give you our agenda for today. We're in the welcome part right now, but you're going to be hearing from the Department of Insurance, from the Ventura County Fire Department, from Southern California Edison, from our local Ventura Regional Fire Safety Council, and from the City of Thousand Oaks. Our questions are going to be held towards the end, just for the sake of time. And then you will also have a chance to go and visit the various booths afterwards to learn more information if you have like a specific question that you didn't feel was addressed during the presentation. So hopefully the way we structured it, you'll be able to get all the information you want and get any questions you have answered. So a little brief background of what is the Ventura County Wildfire Collaborative. Well, you can see from all the logos for a lot of different organizations that are kind of working together to help make Ventura County more resilient to wildfires. And you can read all our mission and everything like that. I'm not going to bore you with all that, but the gist of it is we're several local fire safety councils, the Ventura County Resource Conservation District, and we work closely with the county fire department. And we have a few projects that we've been working on, which you can come over to our booth afterwards and ask us additional questions if you want anything else explained. But really briefly, we're working on updating the Ventura County Community Wildfire Protection Plan. We are running a county-wide wildfire education campaign with Town Hall as part of that. We also have like a webinar speaker series. If you want to sign up for notifications on that, come to our table afterwards. And then we have a standardized home hardening program, which you guys are going to hear more about later today. And projects 4 and 5 deal with mapping and evacuation assessments, mostly confined to the Ojai Valley area. And then project 6, we're very excited for. It's going to be a California Wildfire Conference being held at the Ronald Reagan Library in October of this year. So if you want information on that, come over to the booth right here after the presentation is complete. And I just want to thank you guys for being part of the solution. It really depends on the community effort to help make our county safer from wildfires. So with that, let's get into the first presentation today. And it's going to be the Department of Insurance. Yes, there she is. Okay. Good evening, everyone. My name is Armina Sargsyan. I'm an outreach analyst with the California Department of Insurance, and I'm thrilled to be here tonight to present to you some actions that the Department of Insurance has recently taken to assist you in making your insurance available and affordable. We know that that is a concern throughout the state of California, the inaffordability and inavailability of insurance. So we've been actually tackling this issue for over a year now. For those of you that have no idea who the Department of Insurance is, we are actually a state agency, the largest consumer protection agency in the nation. Our leader is Commissioner Ricardo Lara, and our main responsibility is to protect consumers when it comes to unreasonable insurance. We maintain insurance solvency and making sure that your insurance company has enough funds to pay your claim when the time arises. We set the standard for licensing agents and brokers. We perform market conduct reviews. We resolve consumer complaints. That's actually a big role that we have. If you ever suspect fraud or abuse by your insurance company, we are the agency to turn to. We actually have sworn officers that go out there and do investigations. And lastly, I want to point out that one thing we cannot do as a department is we cannot require the insurance company to sell insurance to a particular person or a community. So since 2019, since Commissioner Lara took office in 2019, we changed how we do our business. We essentially started going out there in the community where the need is, meeting directly with people who have been affected by wildfire emergency. And one thing that we quickly learned was that wildfire are no longer just a Northern California issue, it's affecting everyone in California. So we started working with the state legislature to enact a few changes. First of all, we were able to remove certain barriers that wildfire survivors face when claiming critical insurance benefits that they pay into. We were able to extend evacuation coverage, additional living expenses, upgraded building codes. One thing also, back in 2019, a bill that Commissioner Lara offered while he was still a state senator went into effect that now gives you a 1-year moratorium from non-renewals when it is in an area immediately following a wildfire emergency declared by Governor Newsom. I don't know if I should repeat that one more time. If there is a wildfire emergency declared by the governor, an insurance company cannot non-renew in your area for an entire year. And lastly, we were able to increase the non-renewal notice an insurance company is mandated to give you from 45 days to 75 days, giving you an additional month to find an alternative policy. This graphic needs to be updated slightly because there is a change to the FAIR plan. But how many of you are on the FAIR plan? Heard of the FAIR plan? Okay. Well, the FAIR plan, for those of you that are not aware, is an insurer of last resort. Essentially, all insurance companies are in this pool to provide coverage to those who live in those very high fire severity zones. So if you're unable to find insurance through the traditional market, the FAIR plan is your last resort. And when Commissioner Lara took office, the FAIR plan coverage limits had not increased in decades, while the consumer product price index had gone up in time. So we were able to double the coverage limits into the FAIR plan. And a week ago, I'm very happy to announce that the FAIR plan limits have increased to 20 million for commercial properties. We kept hearing from HOAs how difficult it was for them to find coverage. So we were able to work with the FAIR plan to increase the coverage to 20 million. So I'm going to talk about also, let me go back to the FAIR plan. We're currently working with the FAIR plan. When I say working, we mandated last year that the FAIR plan had comprehensive coverage along with the limited standard policy that it provides. The FAIR plan sued the state of California, so we're currently locked in litigation. But we say that we're not going to stop until the FAIR plan is a fair plan for all Californians. So that brings me to the Safer from the Wildfires framework. This was a collaborative framework that the Department of Insurance launched last year, working with all these state agencies to give you as a California consumer actionable steps on what you can do to harden your home, to protect lives, homes, communities, and in fact, make your insurance available and affordable. And the next 3 slides, I'm going to go through rather quickly, but I have a printout on my table, so please feel free to come by and grab one of those. So it essentially gives you, as I mentioned, action steps on what you can do. So the first step really begins with you protecting your individual structure. So making sure your walls, your vents, your roof, your windows are all upgraded to be safer from wildfires. The second step is protecting your immediate surroundings, which means clearing any dead vegetation, the tree from under the deck, any combustible sheds. And then the last, and probably the most crucial aspect of this is working together as a community. That includes programs such as Firewise, where neighbors come together to come up with a solution and evacuation. That includes your local jurisdictions, your local fire department, your local leaders. So really, it is working together as a community to make your community safer from wildfires. So along with these recommendations, last year, we introduced regulations. The regulations require that insurance companies factor in your actions when it comes to fire mitigation, home hardening, into your pricing. So actually last year, we introduced Safer from Wildfires. We held a public hearing in April. We took a lot of input from the public, but then it took us a few months to go through all that. But essentially, these regulations that I just mentioned are in effect as of October last year. They are law. What that means is your insurance company will have to factor in that wildfire safety. Then you will start receiving your wildfire risk score. You may not be aware that your insurance company already assigns a wildfire risk score to your property. You just never hear about it. But now, because of these regulations, you will receive that wildfire risk score, the reasons behind it, and if you do not agree with it, or if you take steps to harden your home, you should be able to appeal that risk score and in effect be given discounts. The regulations, as I mentioned, went into effect in October. However, insurance companies have until April 12th to get back to the Department of Insurance on how they're going to implement these regulations. So please be on the lookout. In the next few weeks, there will be more information available on how your individual insurance company is going to implement it and when you will start receiving this discount. If you have any questions, concerns, complaints, the Department of Insurance is here to serve you. We're actually available Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. for the phone. We are one of those agencies that picks up the phone, so please don't hesitate to reach out to us. That number is 1-800-927-4357, or you also may visit us at insurance.ca.gov. With that, I thank you for your time. And I'll be here to answer your questions.
Thank you. That was super informative. Next up, we have Larry Williams with the Ventura County Fire Department.
Good evening, Larry Williams. I'm with Ventura County Fire Department. I'm in the Fire Prevention Division as a Fire Prevention Supervisor. I manage our fire hazard reduction program countywide. I've been in that position since 2010, and previously doing our land use development, new construction units and stuff. I've been with the county fire department permanently since 1990, and also spent some time as a reserve all time here in Ventura County. So I grew up in Ventura County. I got to see the wildfires. Wildfires in the 60s, wildfires in the 70s, the 80s, the 90s. They continue to go on. And as I got into this program, I started to see, what is it we can do to help our community become safer. We've had a great defensible space program. That's our fire hazard reduction program, referred to as FHRP. And so we've been working toward that. But a lot of things have changed over the last 5 to 6 years. When I gave this presentation back in December, it just said 2022 extreme drought requires military in prevention measures and response, because we're still experiencing that. We've had catastrophic fires throughout the state. I've been to several of those, seen it happen. Been to fires afterwards to see the effect of it. What does it do? How's the vegetation impact? How are the structures being impacted, igniting, and so forth? But as we just experienced in the beginning of 2023, we have extreme rain, but it's creating a different fire risk. What typically will happen is we will now we'll have a delay in fire season because it's going to take a while for everything to dry out. But we're going to have a bumper grass crop. Those are the light, flashy fuels that burn dry quickly and will burn quickly. The live fuels are going to retain moisture late into the season, but there's still a lot of dead material out there from the drought and stuff. So when it dries out, it still will be able to burn. So it's going to be sort of unique situation this year. We'll see smaller, faster, lighter fires, and then maybe in a year we may see some bigger fires. But then if we don't continue to get the rain in the following years, then we're going to be back into that cycle. So the discussion tonight, that just sort of sets up the flavor of where we're at. So tonight, what's our fire risk? What's our efforts? How we add resources, and how we're working to reach out to our community. I think most people remember this fire, Springs Fire 2013. Started on Caneo Gray. We had over 4,000 structures affected by the structure, and we only had a couple of structures actually damaged. The rest of them survived on live spots. It jumped the 101 freeway. Thomas Fire 2017. At the time of the Thomas Fire, we had the severe drought. The rains I've already talked about have taken the different fuel types. Going back to the second to bottom, Thomas Fire was the largest fire in California history at that time. We used to have the largest fire until 2006 down in San Diego. We had the Ventura fire back in 1932. We have big fires in our county that affect everyone. And they go in cycles. And I say that because you think of 1932. This fire cycle is a long range cycle. You have the fires and the fuels will continue to come back if they're not properly managed in some areas. And then you'll have those extreme fires again. We burnt most of our fuel beds, but we still have areas that are can't burn. The Thomas Fire is number 8 now. So that's how many fires. It was the largest fire for 11 months before another fire took it over. So that's what's been going on. So where do we go with our fire risk? What do we do to help protect our community? We have our defensible space program, as I said, fire hazard reduction program. This county has had a defensible space ordinance since 1929, 30 feet. In 1931, that said 30 foot, but it addressed whoever owns the land. Doesn't matter if you had property within 30 feet of someone's building, whether on your property or someone else's, you were responsible to clear county ordinance. We went to 60 feet in 1950. State still did not have a defensible space program. They formed a program in 1965 at the 30 feet in state areas. We went to 100 feet in 1991. The state finally recognized that after some of the 90 firestorms, they had 3 firestorms, and went to the 100 foot in 2006. So that is now the law. There's 100 foot defensible space on your property. That's the state law. Ventura County is more restricted, always has been, as we've shown, is we require that defensible space, the full 100 foot, and whoever owns that property there. And that's important because it's been shown to help save homes, save lives. I've traveled up and down the state of fires, and I've been to counties where you'll see a house and you'll see that they've done their brush clearance 10 or 20 feet. Neighboring properties vacant. State says they don't have to clear it. Not in our county. That's the difference. That's how come we don't have as large structural loss as you see throughout the state. To say, well, gee, we lost a lot of homes in the Thomas Fire, the Woolsey Fire. Yeah, we did. But we had not had, again, those were historic weather patterns with those winds, part of the drought in there. Had we not had our program, those numbers would have been a lot higher. More lives would have probably been lost. So what we do is, it's that time of year, we'll be sending notices out to about 19,800 properties throughout the county. They go on April 20th with the first clearance deadline. We'll start our inspections. And if they don't clear by that deadline, we'll give them a second notice on it. If they still don't clear it, we'll make an effort to try to get a hold because we want to educate them to do it. We don't want to have to do it and put it on their tax bill. That's our last resort, but we will to protect our community, to protect the neighbors. That's the expectation we have in Ventura County. With that, though, we're over 99% success. Last year, we only had to physically abate 8 properties. The year before was 5. That was a record low. We used to do hundreds of thousands. We don't because of that outreach, but more importantly, you as the citizens that are affected by this program understand it and you do your work. You do work in a reasonable period of time. The open space agencies, they have to do that same work. Everyone has to do it. No one's exempt from it. So where is that zones? As I said, you've got 3 zones now. It used to be 100 foot. It was first 30 foot and then 30 to 7 feet. Couple of 2020 state law passed the new zone 0 infrared-resistant zone. State's still working on those regulations, what that means. But Ventura County, as we've shown in the past, we don't wait for the state if we know it's an issue with the homes. And I've seen the science behind it, the full-scale testing, but more importantly, as I said, I've seen the effects during fire and after fire of what that near structure zone does in ignited structures. So zone 5 or zone 0 is 5 foot around the building and attached decks. Then you go out to zone 1 is 30 feet, and then your full 100 foot out. And as you can see, zones may cross property lines, but again, who's ever responsible, owns that property is responsible for doing that work there. This example, North Branch Country Club, this was the day after Christmas, quite a few years ago. Fire came down, and as you can see, the defensible space at that time, fire came down and just basically between what they've done and the firefighters out there, we're able to save the homestead in that community there. The other part we do in our prevention efforts is we work with our fire safety council, the RCD, part of the Wildfire Collaborative. We work together on ways that we can help you help yourself to be safe. Being safe, again, is a combination. It's not just the defensible space. It starts with your structure. It's a complete package. Work hardening your structure. If you can't afford everything, just do the things you can. Bids are usually the best quick investment. Because roofs are very expensive if you don't have a Class A fire retardant roof. Then there's other items you can do. Start with your house because we want to keep embers, which is what's igniting the homes. It's not the fire. It's the embers that are coming and getting into the homes or igniting the stuff, the vegetation or other combustibles, patio furniture, trash cans, wood piles, sheds, everything that's in that close to the structure and then getting to the structure by either more embers or by radiant heat or direct flames. So start your house, work your way out through the zone. It's a combination. I don't have this slide here, but there's been some studies as far as homes that have only done home hardening, not the defensive space or defensive space, not home hardening. And the percentages of, said destroyed or not destroyed versus those that have done everything, it really shows the combination of the effect of doing that complete package. For more information, you have our website, either bcfp.org, or if you put bcfhrp.org, you go right to our website. That was a picture of a fire in Bell Canyon. I believe you're the name of fire. So what else are we doing? We're involved at multiple levels of trying to look at what's happening. We're involved with a lot of state groups, both with this Board of Forestry, with CAL FIRE, the State Fire Marshal's Office, with the associations of the fire prevention officers up and down the state, the wildland urban-based committees. We're involved with all that to get that data, that research, discuss with other agencies what's working, what doesn't work. how can we improve everything? So we continue to do that. The new state zone zero regulations, another, back to that topic there. Those regulations are so difficult to determine what it is that's ember resistant. It's not like we can just see the law say, hey, develop an ember resistant zone. What does it mean? And so it's taking time to go through and say, what are the issues? What are the items in there that are creating a problem? So those all had to be identified before you can actually write the regulations on what to do with them. Thing with zone zero, though, when it goes into effect, unfortunately, it was supposed to be this year for new structures, and then 1 year later, retrofit for all existing structures in the fire zone and the educational outreach. And that's a huge impact. We recognize that. I actually been on that state committee that's been working on those regulations since October of 2021. And I can tell you there's a lot of issues in trying to develop those regulations. What goes, what stays, what's regulated, what's educational component. People don't think, your vehicles parked next to your house. That's a fuel source for your house. Trash cans, other items and stuff. So the state's still working through that. They just completed a public survey online, still working through the governor's office. And we're hoping that they'll have the draft regulations out for a public review period later this year. But it'll be probably 2024 before they go into effect for new and looking at 2025 for existing. And how's that going to work? That's good. That's going to be, we're going to have to see. But however, though, as you heard from the insurance commissioner's office, they've been working on those regulations. Of those items that the insurers have to look at, they want to see that as a non-combustible zone, nothing combustible. But unfortunately, that's the direction that we have is not to go that heavy on it. There are some jurisdictions that do. Knowing that was happening, knowing that we have seen the issues of the near structure emissions that spread to the structure, Ventura County implement from new structures going in a zone zero requirements for landscaping, making sure appropriate plants are put in the appropriate zones and the size and spacing requirements that are required. To have full solid yard vegetation does not comply with state law for the fencible space, nor the regulations. There has to be spacing. And that's an item we're trying to get people to understand in looking at their yards. Just because you put plants in your yard, they're not exempt. Cultivated plants or mineral vegetation, all subject to the fencible space regulations. So we have that for new. All that information is on our website. You can talk to me afterwards when we're done. This is the other effort that we're looking at too. This was from Dallas, Texas last summer. This was a field next to a housing development, a grass field, general rolling hills. They were doing some weed clearance. A windy day, guy with fire went across the field, hit the fences, started running the fences, and then started getting into the structure. Pathways to the houses. Combustible fences are a pathway for fire. National studies on this, reports, post-fire reports, the Paradise Fire, Colorado, a lot of them have all shown those are pathways for fire to achieve. Another example again, wasn't heavy fuels in the grass fire. Getting to the accessory building with sheds. They ignited eventually. This house got destroyed. They couldn't get resources moving up, but you can see how it's burning. See how it's burning into the yard with hardly any vegetation smoldering in there and creeping toward the house. They've done full-scale testing of the fences to see what they do to determine where the critical link is. And what's been determined is that 5-foot zone. Non-combustible fencing, that 5-foot zone next to the house. That is a proposal for the street to look at requiring a retrofit on it. That's a huge one. That's a big impact. Hopefully people will understand it. It's what Ventura County has done now is anyone building new fences in the fire zone so that it's perpendicular to the house They can no longer put combustible fencing. It has to be non-combustible. Don't build it out of wood, vinyl, wood composites anymore. If you change anything out of that, repair or whatever, replace it with non-combustible. We're not making you retrofit your fence at this time. Now, we'll wait and see what the state does on that. But why let people continue to put a wick next to their house? So if you're in the fire zones, we're trying to do that to protect you, because it's not just your house, your lives, your children, it's your neighborhood, your community. Once the fire gets into the structure, now that's the fuel. It's not the brush, it's the house. Structure to structure. There's a lot of testing being done on what is the best distance, separation distance for structures to prevent structure to structure ignition in these wildland fires. And so there's more coming out on that with it. Thing the church mentioned about accessory buildings, combustible accessory buildings. If you're in a fire zone, you're not allowed to have a combustible accessory building within 3 feet of your structure. That's in the state building code. Unfortunately, most of those that people get are under 120 square feet where you don't need a building permit, so you're not aware of them. Those are ignition sources. A non-combustible structure or ignition resistance is what is required to be there. And it's got to be stretched out for all new buildings going in, new accessory buildings out to 50 feet. Next big topic that everyone's been wondering about is fire hazard severity zones, ignition fire zones. The state has mapped in what they call the state responsibility areas, unincorporated areas that are wildland areas. State of California is responsible for wildfire prevention and suppression. They contract to Ventura County along with 5 other counties instead of UC and Cal Fire here. And we provide that equipment, fire protection, helps fund some of our personnel and equipment. Everyone in the state responsibility area is in a fire zone by law. You're going to be either very high, or moderate. And they're not changing those boundaries at this time. They are looking and remapping all those zones based on newer modeling, taking into account wind, fire burning, topography, other issues there that come out. So those maps are out. They just ended the public comment period, and I just actually happened to hear from the state fire marshal yesterday that they may be making a few revisions based on the comments. They've received thousands of comments, and they will reply or respond to the package to all those comments. And if they need to make adjustments, then those maps will go back out in those areas for additional comment period. Once the state fire marshal approves those final maps and issue, then they'll do the local responsibility area. And that's the areas that are adjacent to the wildlands in the unincorporated area, or those wildland areas in the city areas. And right now, we only have the very zone mapped. That is going to change, and you will be seeing the high and moderate zone on those maps. That was required by state law. So when those are done, and like we held a public meeting in January, the LRA maps, when those come out, the state reviews and issues them out for the local jurisdictions to look at. There will be a public comment period. We're required by law to open that within 30 days. We'll look at all that, and then we have to adopt those maps by ordinance within 120 days. I'm quite sure based on the comments we get what that's going to be, but there's going to be those new zones. There's going to be people put in a very high zone that never went in. There may be some people taken out based on the bond, based on development that's occurred that you're further away from the well. Maps were last done in 2009 and published in 2010. They're outdated. State maps were done in 2007. So we're gonna see what's happening with that. But that whole process and everything will be later this year. We'll make sure there's an outreach both to all, through our department, to the different jurisdictions that we serve. You live here in the city of Thousand Oaks. The city does not contract to you. You're part of our fire protection district that was formed back in 1928. And when the city incorporated, they stayed as part of the district. Your property tax is what funds the fire protection district, along with the funding that we get from CAL FIRE for the wildfire. That's basically where all the funds come from. You're your constituents. You're part of this district, and it serves Thousand Oaks, Simi Valley, Moore Park, Camarillo, Port Hueneme, Ojai, and as of July of 2018, the city of San Paulo disbanded their fire department and annexed it to the district. So unlike law enforcement, where the city has to contract for the sheriffs or any other agency they want, they don't contract for us. We are your fire department as part of this district. So here's the key thing with those maps. The maps are for a hazard. Where is the hazard area? No different is where's the flood hazard? Where's the seismic hazard? So they map the hazard. And it's based on a 30 to 50-year period of what those fuels would be. As I mentioned, we have a change in fires that come through. San Juan Mountains has a fire return frequency of 7 to 8 years in some areas. But we've had other areas that haven't burned for decades. Sometimes there's been areas that haven't burned for centuries. And when they go, because the fuels haven't been maintained, we get very intensive. But it's a 30 to 50-year period that they're using. Where the risk is what the fire is going to do. Insurance companies handle the risk. So we want to make that the distinction there. All the comments received by the insurance or state fire marshal's office for state responsibility area maps, 60% for insurance rate. Ready, set, go information. We want you to be prepared. We have information on that table. We'll pamphlets on it to help you know what's going on, what you need to have. And we highly encourage you not to stay. Don't wait till the last minute. It's not stay at the minute. Ready, set, go, get out. So evacuation can be done sooner. Sometimes it's right on talking. There's nothing you can do. We try to make it. We work with the sheriff's department. Sheriff's department, police department, they're responsible for the evacuation. We assist by letting them know what the fire's doing so decisions can be made on where we need to evacuate communities. But the sheriff is responsible for evacuation and evacuation plan, Sheriff's OES department. So what else are we doing as your fire department to help suppress fires besides the prevention side of the house? We added 2 firearms. We actually have a third one that we did go through the full retrofit. We still have. This is the Black Hawk helicopters, but they're called Firehawks now. The versions they have all new technology and everything. But we put 2 of them in service in 2022 season actually went in service. But we got this. We also work with Southern California Edison, their quick response program that funds 3 heavy heli-tankers and a mobile retard base in Southern California. So one of those helicopters that we help support to keep that year round is based out of Camarillo Airport, but it's available in the Southern California region. Wildfire crews. We used to only have 2 crews, and we would get extra staff in your season and 2 full crews. We get, some of that money comes from CAL FIRE. They're short inmate crews, and they will be. So what they've done is those 6 contract counties, they are now giving us money because we all have crew programs, having us bolster our crews for fire suppression, but also for fire prevention efforts. And so we had a 3rd crew last year. We are adding that 4th crew this year. And we should be hopefully looking at full-time funding for that next year that will have those resources available. And just to continue to train the expertise, we work with all our other partner agencies. You get a fire over here in the county line area, you're not only going to get Ventura County fire responding, you're going to get LA County fire. It's our mutual threat zone. Doesn't matter whose dirt it's on. There's fire in that zone. We're all responding because we want to help protect our own individual areas. If we can keep it in LA County, great. But the same thing, they like to keep the fire in Ventura County. If it's over in East Simi Valley area, we have LA City. So we have 3 fire departments, all part of the first alarm response on the initial call. And we coordinate, we work together on trying to minimize that fire. Public outreach, that's a public information officer. We're always out and about. So fire state council meetings, these town hall meetings, I do want to talk about bullet point 3, because this just recently came up and just got added to this presentation. Insurance Commissioner's Office mentioned Firewise. Firewise USA is a program of recognition where communities do certain things to help do pre-fire activities. The Ventura Regional Fire Safety Council has been working with Firewise trying to do that. We have 2 communities in our county that have the recognition. Cal Fire is really pushing this. There are almost 700 communities statewide now. However, the most important factor is that's over 25% of the nation. That's how big an issue. And because it's one of those mitigation risk factors that the insurance regulations say that the companies have to recognize, we want to get out ahead on this, especially before those new maps come up, and get the communities to understand this process. So we're looking at hosting a Firewise workshop in Wildfire County in mid-August before those maps come out. But if you're in the community that's interested, get a hold of us, get a hold of the Ventura Regional Fire Safety Council. You don't need to wait for that. We'll get you going. We'll do whatever we can to help you. And we'll save the questions for later. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, we have Louise from SoCal Edison.
So good evening. My name is Lee. I'm with the Outreach Communications team of the Business Customer Division for Southern California and Edison. And again, just thank you for allowing us the opportunity to join you guys today. I'm going to have a couple of slides for you. Don't worry, I have only 10 minutes. I need to get 500 slides in the next 10 minutes. We can do this together. Now, before we get going, I do want to highlight a couple of things for you. We do have some folks here. We have information on for income qualified homeowners or people that need some assistance with their electric bill and stuff like that. We have information for you here. And we have resources to help explain some of those things for you. So let's go ahead and jump in. Now, I do want to highlight one more thing. This slides that we're going to share with you tonight is actually a myopic view of a larger deck that we do have. We do have a larger presentation. We'll come out to communities and share more in-depth information on outage preparation, wildfire mitigation, preparedness, things like that. So if you guys want to hear something a little more detailed and maybe invest 2 hours with me, just kidding, it's only 45 minutes, then we can do that, come back and just have a greater conversation, okay? All right. So our wildfire mitigation plan. Now, I know that many customers don't really think about Edison as having a wildfire mitigation program or system, or even think about it. In fact, most of our customers think about Edison on 2 occasions. One, when you have to pay the bill, and 2, when you go to flip the switch on and the lights don't come on. Both of those are not the best experiences, right? But we do like to get out into the community and let our customers know that we actually do things a little bit more outside of our area of responsibility. Particularly today with our wildfire mitigation efforts and program. Now, since our public safety power shutoff protocol began in about 2018, we've been able to, through different, just a wide array of measures, reduce the risk of damage to our customers and to our service territory anywhere from 65 to 70%. And that's a massive, massive win, not just for Edison, but for the communities that we serve and we live in. And I'm going to share a few of those mitigation measures that we deployed. One of them being an overhead conductor. Now, many of you customers, if you're driving down the street and you see those poles, that's actually bare wire. One thing that we've started to do is replace all that bare wire with covered conductor. I'll get a little more detail in the next couple of slides. Now, since the 2018 season or wildfire season, we've been able to grow and learn and reduce a lot of efforts, a lot of impacts for our customers. Today, we've identified and been able to reduce the downtime or de-energized experience that our customers have during a PSPS event. This is when we proactively shut off power to customers during a wildfire event by about 73%. Now, that is significant. So in the inception years, customers were de-energized for hours upon hours and hours and hours. We've been able now to hone that in a little bit more and reduce it by 73%. That's a significant win. We've also been able to identify approximately 81,000 customers that live within a high fire risk area and remove them from ever coming under a proactive de-energizing event. That's 81,000 customers, and we'll continue to see those numbers come up. How we do that, I'll get into the next couple of slides, okay? Now, one thing that we have been working is, what do we do additionally outside of our area of control and expertise, and that's work with our fire departments. We've been able to invest approximately $18 million to create this quick reactionary force that includes heli-tankers to support Orange County, LA County, and Ventura counties during wildfire events. So again, not just working within our own grid, but outside in our communities. Now, the next couple of slides are going to be very, very busy, and they're very annoying because there's a lot of words, but I'm going to highlight just a couple of things for you. Number one, a covered conductor. One thing that we've identified in these high fire risk areas is that they're also very prone to wind. So every year when the winds do come through, we can have those wires just kind of start slapping together. Once the wires slap together, we can have a spark, and we have dry vegetation and wind. Now we have a recipe for disaster. So low-hanging fruit effort is to replace all of that bare wire with covered conductor. So it's essentially a wire with a thick plastic sleeve over it, so that when the winds do come through and those lines do slap together, now we eliminate the potential of a spark in the field. Okay. So today we've been able to install over 3,000 miles of covered conductor, and we do have plans to continue to install more and more of that covered conductor throughout those high fire risk areas. One other area I want to highlight for you is the underground. This is a question that I received from a lot of customers. Hey, Edison, if it's such a high risk, why not just go underground? And we've been able to do that. In fact, we've been able to install over 17 miles of underground conductor for a lot of these high fire risk areas. Today, we have completed some studies, and we've been able to identify approximately an additional 11 miles of undergrounding areas that we're going to focus again in those high fire risk areas. Okay, so more to come on that. Here's another super busy slide because I can't bore you enough. A couple of things to highlight for you. Another component that many customers don't connect Edison with is meteorology. We actually do have a full-time 24/7 activated meteorology team. In order to support the efforts for our meteorology team, we've been able to install over 1,500 weather stations throughout our high fire risk areas. Now, these weather stations give us really very granular, detailed information of what is happening in your neighborhood, the speed of the winds, humidity, et cetera, et cetera. This information is very, very important for us because we're able to kind of begin coordinating resources in advance of a potential wind event or wildfire or whatever it is. It's very, very key data. Now, let me pull back the veil a little bit on our meteorology team. Our meteorology team, like I said, they're activated 24/7. They're always keeping an eye on what's happening across our service territory. Now, mind you, our service territory runs from northern San Diego up to the San Joaquin Valley, from the Pacific Ocean to Nevada and Arizona. Pretty large area. So this team, their whole job is to sound the alarm when they see a potential threat coming into any area of our service territory, whether it be rain, snow, fire, potential fire, et cetera, whatever it is, that's the primary job, is to begin to sound the alarm. Another component I want to highlight for you is our wildfire mitigation cameras. Now, there are approximately 166 cameras that give us about 90% coverage, visual coverage in those high fire risk areas. Now we're able to remotely tilt, pan, zoom, and really focus our attention in specific areas. And more importantly, we're able to share this information with local agencies on what we see and what they see in particular zones. Now, one question I did receive recently about wildfire cameras is, hey, Edison, are you able to look into my home? No, actually, these cameras are in very remote locations, okay? Very far away. And that's not our role. Another busy slide, right? Because I just feel like annoying you today. So a couple of things I want to highlight for you is our high fire risk inspections. Now, you may receive an email from Edison periodically that says, hey, customer, we're going to be in your area. We're going to be conducting aerial inspections. Now, we do have a flyer for that if you want more details in the back. Now, the whole purpose of this is really to find out what's going on with our equipment at all times. What's the status of it? Is there a missing bolt? Is there a broken cross arm? Whatever it is, what can we do to begin remediating that potential threat immediately or before a wind event or rain event or snow event comes into that area. So, but as of last year, we completed about 97% aerial inspections on all of our assets in high fire risk areas. And this will be a continuing effort for us, continuing program for Edison. Vegetation management has always been a cornerstone of our wildfire mitigation program. Every year we inspect about 700,000 trees, and we prune back another about 500,000 trees every year. Another effort that we've done on our wildfire mitigation space with respect to vegetation management is to grow the space from our assets, our equipment, and vegetation. It used to be a 4-foot clearance. Today that has grown from 4-foot to 12-foot clearance. One of the most common impacts or de-energizing causes that we see for our customers, particularly in high fire risk areas, are vegetation making contact with overhead equipment. It could be a palm frond, it could be a tree coming over, a tree branch, whatever it is. We want to eliminate the potential for that as much as we can, so we've been able to clear that a bit more. Our public safety power shutoff protocol, or PSPS, is that effort of last resort where we identify potential threats for the community and will proactively de-energize customers. Now, because of all of the measures and that we've been able to deploy in the field, we've been able to leverage this protocol less and less and less every year. This is a significant win, not just for Edison, but for our communities. Typically, they're less angry when I come out into the community and let them know what's going on and how we're doing. Oh, okay, that's it. Questions? Okay. I'll throw it back to you.
Next, we have Matt Young, representing the Ventura Regional Fire State Council.
Thank you. Are we through yet? You guys got 2 more in you? At least? We got 5 more. So I'm going to keep mine pretty brief. My name is Max Young. I'm with the Ventura Regional Fire State Council. Just like Larry Williams and Ventura County Fire Department, Thousand Oaks, any of the surrounding areas, we are your fire state council. Except we're a nonprofit, we don't wear a badge, and we're just here to help you. Right? Larry provided a lot of great information, and some of it can be a little bit overwhelming. So we're fully funded, mostly through CAL FIRE. We've got a lot of money, and we're here to help you navigate if you're concerned about wildfire, if you're concerned about insurance. If I don't know the answer to something, I won't make it up. I'll plug you into the right person. So tonight, I just want to highlight 3 programs, 3 of our efforts. So the first one, we're going to go to the home hardening program. But first, I kind of wanted to do a little overview because we all know the risk of wildfire in Thousand Oaks. We've experienced it. But I wanted to highlight this finding from wildfirerisk.org, which does some pretty sophisticated mapping stuff. It probably isn't right on the dot, but Thousand Oaks is higher than 88% of the communities in the United States. So it makes sense. We're in the Conejo Mountains. Fire has been here before we got here, and it's going to be here after we're gone. So the reason I highlight that is because I've heard a few times this evening, you know, I don't think that I'm actually, you know, in that zone, that, you know, I'm not up against the hill. And what Larry will tell you and what I'll tell you again is that wildfires produce embers, and taking Thomas Fire as an example, those embers are traveling about a mile ahead of the front of the fire. So if we have wildland stopping at some point, we can still be getting embers, you know, 5, 6, 7, 8 blocks interior. And if you have some hazardous stuff around your house, then you've created a bit of a situation for yourself. So that's where the home hardening program is kind of here to help, right? So it's entirely free. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about the steps right here. So it starts with a home visit. I can't do anything unless I can get to your house and actually see what we're talking about, right? I'm going to take a look around, and I've studied a lot of the same resources that Larry has helped me to identify, and study the science of how structures are lost during wildfires. I'm going to kind of take what I know in terms of recommendations and tailor it to your situation. You can tell me, hey, you know, a new roof is out of the question this year. And I can be like, I got it. Okay, that makes sense. Maybe we'll start with something else. Small bites of the apple, right? And just trying to get your house as resilient as it can be. And that comes with a free report and lots of educational materials, lots of brochures, getting more every day. And finally, really importantly, All the results are private. So suppose you are a home in which you receive a notice from the Ventura County Fire Department to do your brush clearance. Well, if I go to your home and you haven't done it yet, I'm not going to turn around and go tell Larry. You won't get a fine as a result of me being there. And while I appreciate what the insurance commission's office said, I won't tell your insurance agency either. All the results of my visit are private. Although what she mentioned is that the insurance company actually already has a wildfire risk score for your home. So I wouldn't be telling anything that they wouldn't know, but that's kind of the breakdown of this program. And I really encourage anybody that hasn't had it done for themselves yet to really just invite us out. We have a full-time staff, everybody's been trained, and I think you'll find the experience pretty easy. So I'm not going to go into the details of what home hardening entails. I love that this is the same graphic that Larry used. You'll see this a lot. The reason that I use it is to point out that I don't know any homes in Thousand Oaks or really in Ventura County, maybe some, that look like that, right? It's whose house actually looks like that. If it were everybody that far apart and all the spacing and everything's pretty and there were somehow no fences in this ideal of community, it might be a little bit easier to understand the rules and guidelines. So that's where we just exist to help. We just, apply the principles that were crafted through creating diagrams like this and apply it to your own situation, right? And we have some knowledge, right? So if you're confused about, I don't know what that's made of, or I don't know what that might be, or whatever, we can help you navigate. The second of the programs that I'm going to talk about is Firewise USA. You've heard it brought up a few times. So Larry's going to hold a workshop for all the interested HOAs in the county that want to get on board. I'll point out that we have two folks, the Los Robles Estates HOA. I've been working with them. Me and Larry rode around and did a site visit, and Santa Rosa Valley MAC. We're all trying to get Firewise going in this county because compared to the rest of the state, we are ridiculously behind. There's probably 900 Firewise communities in the state, and we have 2. So we're really trying to push this because what it does is it gives it a framework of action for a community. Well, I live in my HOA and it's about 80 homes and we're all pretty tight. I hear that story so often, and we just want to know what we can do. Well, this is a free program designed for you. So on staff at the Ventura Regional Fire Safety Council, we have three regional coordinators for this program. So if you want to get in touch with Larry, we want to have him come out and provide some expertise. We can kind of help you there. You can just reach out directly as well. But if you need help, we're just there to be, your assistant. The benefits, as I mentioned, get a framework for action. You learn a little bit about wildfire too. Sometimes when we talk about this, I forget that not everybody spends 80 hours a week just thinking about fire because they might be normal. You build community, right? So I hear it often as well when I do my assessments. Can you talk to my neighbor, please? Can you go over there and maybe knock and say, hey, the palm tree is an issue. The fire guy said so. Well, I'm not going to do that, but maybe if we can kind of get a little bit of a collective spirit going on, then it's not just, hey, fire guy said that your palm tree is bad, and then I feel affronted because I'm your neighbor. We're in this together. Your house is only as safe as mine, and if we harden the community, we can be that much more resilient to fire. You can garner publicity. I like that because it helps get your community money, and then you have access to funding opportunities. If you have an organized body, right, we can help you to get this project, in the barranca by your house done because nobody's looked at it for 20 years and it's been overgrowing and just put the radar. And then finally, insurance discounts. And maybe I ought to put a little asterisk there because as you've heard this evening, there are a lot of different things going on in that field right now. So we're going to get into how we do it. There's only 4 steps. First step is to organize. And that's just forming a board committee. Just, hey, would you guys be committed to helping me out with this, 1 meeting a month for the next few months, and let's see how we can do this, right? Plan it. So there's basically 2 documents that are required. I'm not going to explain the whole rigmarole right now, but basically you get some documentation done, and that's where I can help. I know what they are. I know how Larry can help you do them. I have some suggestions and examples, and then do it. So what Firewise is all about is actually incentivizing homeowners and giving them the education they need to do the work to make your property that much safer. So basically, when I say do, I mean track it. A lot of us already do here, you clean the gutters because you get oil, you gutters, or you bought some screening because you noticed that it got punched out when the trash bin rolled back in. So this is about cracking. Once a year, your community will have a nice event where you can exchange ideas, who needs help, right? Hey, I can't get out there to my gutters anymore. Oh, we can figure something out. And then report quantity of vegetation removed. There's no minimum. If anybody in here wants more details on this, I would love talking about firewise. You can find me afterwards. And then finally, you apply. So if any of the municipalities in Ventura County want to become a Tree City USA, program, they can't just write their street signs. They have to do a little bit of work, demonstrate, and then they get their street signs. The same thing here. You got to do step 1 through 3, and then you become recognized. And now you sit in this nice little boundary where everybody is aware of the program you're enrolled in. They know what the work is, and you might receive some insurance discounts down at the parcel level. Okay, I'm breezing through this, but finally, I want to talk about my third program, and with a special kind of shout out to the Conejo Open Space Conservation Agency, because that seemed relevant given where we are. So thanks to the funding provided by COSCA, we've been able to go a little bit of a step further, a bit of a novel program throughout the state. I'm aware of 2 others doing it in the state. And that is, I go to a home, I do an assessment, the homeowner says, great, I understand what I need to do. I can't do it. I'm out of money, I have issues going on. It makes sense. We all know somebody that's in that situation. Sometimes we need a little bit of help. So this program is allowing us to really actually do the work. So you can see here, we're up on the roof, we're screening vents, buying roll-offs, removing vegetation. And it's the easy things, right? Because it's not a lot of money, right? But what we know about home hardening is that the devil lies kind of in the details. Yes, we recommend dual pane windows with tempered glass. But if your gable and vent doesn't have the right screening, well, the glass probably won't make it. Right? So some of these little things we can help you do, and we've been helping people thus far. So shown here is one of our guys, kind of just these soffit vents. We won't really look at them, but sometimes if it's inadequate screening, we know that embers just flow right into there like a sieve. And I wanted to shout out that to date, we've actually done 360 hours of work with this program, shouting out the Crew, which is a nonprofit out of Ojai, and actually Athens Services, which has donated very generously all the disposal costs. So each dollar I was spending on buying a roll-off and having it disposed of and swapping them out and build it up, now they've decided they're going to subsidize that. I get to pour that money back into hours for the guys to do work. It's a really great program. And I just wanted to shout that out. If you are aware of anybody that could utilize our program, start with a home hardening assessment, get them on our radar, get them signed up. Let's see where they're at, and then we can go from there. More information obviously available at the booth, but if you'd like to learn more about these 3 programs, please just go to our website, and I'll take questions after.
Thank you, ma'am. Next, we have Graham Watts with the City of Southern Oaks.
Okay, I'll try to bring this home. I know you've had a lot of PowerPoint here, huh? So we'll go through this real quick. Now, I work in Public Works, in City of Thousand Oaks, and I too have been here for but not quite as long as Larry. I've been through all the fires, all the earthquakes, all the power outages, even a tornado years ago on Teal Boulevard. Not too many people know that. And I work in Public Works, but Public Works is one of the first agencies to respond to. There you go. One of the first agencies will respond to any type of thing. So we have emergencies all the time. We just don't hear about them. So water line breaks, slides, traffic issues, all kinds of sinkholes, all kinds of problems. But our primary focus is to make the incident area prepared and ready so the police and fire can go in there and do their job, keep everyone safe. So these are just some of the things that we do. And then with any incident that you have, you're going to have challenges. And one of the first things that happens is that we lose communications. whether that's with your neighbor, whether that's a phone or a computer. So you just have to anticipate that, and anticipate and have a plan B, prepare for the next incident. Because while we haven't had, God forbid, a fire sometime, a little bit of a lull here, we certainly haven't had an earthquake. So you've got to know they will return. So plan accordingly, no matter where you are, whether it's a football game or school or work, plan accordingly, because a fire impact is significant from beginning to end. So you have the response, you have the recovery, you have the mitigation, and the mitigation is where we are today. We have all these agencies telling you all these amazing programs and services. But what are you doing individually? How are you prepared? Don't expect the cavalry to come save you. Be self-prepared. It's very important to think about that. And so I brought some tools for that, some advice for and information. Put things on a flash drive. Expect your phone to die. Expect the phone lines not to work. Your power outage will kill some of your resources. Have hard copy backups for everything. Are they at school? Are they in your car? Are they at work? Right now, if you needed to call someone and your phone didn't work, what would you do? Does your family know where to go if you have an earthquake, whether they're home, school, and you can't communicate with them? Think about these things. And then you have a kit. It's just a visual kit. Go through the checklist. I have some handouts here. Make it fun. Give it to the kids. Have them go around the house and find all this stuff, put it in a bag, and you've got an instant go bag. It's in your car, that's at school, that's at work, and you'll be good to go. These are just some of the resources you should really consider. Think now before it's too late. And they always happen. So just make a kit, make a plan, and where to go and what to do. It's not a lot of work, but it can save a lot of time. And it's very important for you and everyone else around you. Identify out-of-town contacts. Okay, so let's say we had a major incident. Guess what? Everyone's on the phone. You know, it's a lot easier for someone out of state to call you than you to call them when something happens. So if there's national news saying, oh, there's a big incident in California and they're trying to get a hold of people, everyone's calling someone. But maybe your friends or neighbors out of state can call you. It'll save you time and headache. Same thing goes for school and work and meeting places. When you walk into a meeting room, you walk into a football stadium, you walk into a theater, you look around, you know where the exit is, you know how to get out right away. Do you even listen to the Dodger Stadium evacuation plans when you go there? And they say, when there's does anyone listen to that? Probably not. Do it on your own. Figure it out. Know where to go and what to do. Information is your power of safety. This little handy dandy card, you put this in your wallet, you put it in your purse, have available to you, have all the key information in there. Give it to your kids, family members, grandma, everyone. Pretty straightforward. So you know where to go and what to do, and people know who you are. Okay, so evacuations, you know, they're never fun, they're never convenient. You know, we went through a nightmare many years ago with Wildfire. We had all these winds, had a terrible borderline incident. Everything that could go wrong did. But then it got better because all the agencies that we rely on, the Sheriff's Department, the Fire Department, and many other agencies all stepped up and did an amazing job to recover and respond to a horrible incident. But if there's an evacuation, you got to be ready. And again, you go back, know where to go. Look for 2 routes in your neighborhood. Don't look for one because you know what? Everyone's going to take that route. Where's route 2? What if it's blocked? What if your car is stuck in the freeway? What if your garage door doesn't open and your car's in the garage? Reverse your car so you can go straight out. Little things like that, little tips, just consider that. Put a bag together. And as I'll talk about and I have handouts, if you don't know what VC alert is, has anyone here not heard of VC alert? Anyone? Great. That's the first time that's ever happened. You're not registered for VC alert. Get registered, but more importantly, have you moved? Has your phone number changed? Go to VC alert and update your information for school, work, and everywhere else. It's not just where you live, and it's for all of your family, everywhere. You got a fire extinguisher? I do. You know CPR? My wife does. She'll save me. Oh. Okay, so think about being prepared. And I mean, I can't say enough, but these are just more basic things that you could have. Radio is useful. Now, if there's a major incident, I'm not gonna pick up and listen to the radio, I'm a little busy, but other people are gonna do that, and you know what? I wouldn't pick up and listen to KNX. I would listen to KCLU. KCLU is your local resource. Thomas Fire, KCLU. Woolsey Fire, KCLU. That's your local radio station. Now, there are several emergency stations that may or may not be activated, but KCLU is on it, and they'll give you everything you need to know to be very informed, in addition to all the other resources that are out there. Oh my gosh, what about your pets? You go to a shelter, this was a shelter. Other shelters, they don't necessarily always take pets. So have you thought about that? Where you go and what you would do with them? It's another consideration, and all the other essentials that keep you operating. All right, so here's a few resources. Now, community emergency response team. We were going to have a class that started, it was going to start last night, but we didn't get enough participants. And this is a county-wide program run by the fire department. But each city administers the program. So the 1,000 Notes CERT program, if you're 18 and can get to a physical location at City Hall, you're qualified if you live in Ventura County. Our next class will be May 17th. It'll be a Wednesday, 5 to 9. Fire department, they really know what they're doing. And they'll teach you everything you need to know about being self-prepared, being neighborhood ready. It's not the 1,000 Oaks Police Department DART program. They will actually respond to an incident and go out there. And their role is completely different. CERT is about being individually prepared. We even have youth CERT programs. So think about that and please consider it. So these are your resources. Know them, understand them, and visit them. Don't wait. Go there now. VC alert, VC emergency. Okay, so whenever you have an incident, what happens? Everybody talks about everything. Rumors, oh my gosh, did you hear? Half the time they're wrong, including the news. They get it wrong all the time. They love to show those flames. I don't know what it is with the news. The weather, they must show the weather 9 times a day during an hour broadcast. It's like, I think it's just entertainment for them. Well, fires are no different. They love the flames. They love the chaos. Bring it down a notch. Just factually collect the information and go to vcemergency.com. The County Office of Emergency Services works with all the cities, public and private agencies. We collect the facts, we post the information, and we make sure you know where and what is going on, not the news. I call KCLU, they got it right more often than not, but these are your other stations. And then, of course, the media outlets with Facebook and Twitter and everywhere else. American Red Cross, they're a key participant. And now shelters, they're a partner to the County Human Services Agency when it comes to shelter. We have a completely vetted and in place sheltering program that we didn't have when Woolsey happened. Completely prepared and ready to go. Pre-identified shelter sites. It's all organized, all planned, and all coordinated. So I think we're done with PowerPoint for today. And I want to thank you for your attention. And if anyone has any questions, ask Heidi.
Here. Okay, so now this is the question and answer portion. So if I could have all the presenters just come up here real quick. Does anyone have any questions?
Put you right on the spot.
So you changed out 2,000 miles of wire with conduit covered wire. How many miles are there?
How many total miles of conductor are there?
Well, you got 2,000, it sounds like a lot, but from my view, there could be 300,000.
Well, we do have approximately 217,000 miles of transmission distribution line for our entire service territory. Our main efforts are focused in those high fire risk areas. And so to date, we also have to consider logistically, is it even viable to replace conductor in some of those remote areas? So we're focusing our efforts in those areas where our communities actually live. You know, that's our main focus right now, is how soon can we get to harden the grid that will reduce the greatest impact to our customers. And so that's been our highlight right now, is that about 3,000 miles of covered conductor that directly impacts customers' residents.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I live in a high risk zone. And there's a June 1 requirement to have everything cleared within 150 feet of all the residences as required by the fire department. Given all the rain, is the June 1st deadline going to be pushed back?
Not at this time. The requirement is basically is 100 foot or to your property line. Again, the adjoining property, if it's less than 100 foot to your property line, adjoining property would be responsible. There are a few locations. You mentioned 150 feet. What area are you located in?
Santa Rosa Highlands, right at the corner of Moore Park and Santa Rosa Road.
Yeah, and so that is one development. We have a couple over in the Westlake area. You do have 150 foot. That was a mitigation measure that was put on that development. So we will sometimes increase that and trade off for other items. In that case there, because it's a dead end access up to that bridge there. That was a mitigation, increase fire flow, the water pressure, water availability, fire lines there. We have a couple of places over in Westlake where they actually were conditioned for 200 foot rush funds by the city council. But no, we stay with the June 1st. We don't want to go back and forth. We found that by keeping that steady date, LA County's got May 15th, that's a date. But we felt by keeping that same date, everyone's used to it, so they're aware of it, they're doing it. You know, when you receive that notice in the mail, that's the first part of it, that's education. Part, and that's why, because 90% of the people complete their work by that first inspection. We're not out to every property on June 1st. We have 19,000 properties to look at. It takes almost 4 weeks to go through the county on just those parcels alone and stuff. But don't wait because we haven't shown up, or we work our way from this way to that way and stuff, because you never know when fire season is going to start. We've had a Springs fire burn 24,000 acres. At the beginning of beginning of May or April that year, 2013, different characteristics, 30 miles an hour winds. Most of those grass is cured, and most of them will probably cure by June. That's your flashing field. So we want to make sure that you stay on top of that. Thank you.
The question is on the last slide. I've heard people, they talk about pulse point as a way to find out about things. And how is that different than the DC?
Totally agree with that. Fire department program.
Pulse point, I think the sheriffs have something. It's basically where you could just get, you can sign up for it, and you can receive alerts of, you can vary what type of alerts I want to get. I want to alert sometime when a heart attack, I'm in the area where there's AED, when it going to get alerts on when there's a wildfire, dispatch and stuff. And it's just an alert system you ping. It's off our response things. And actually with the pulse point, you can actually get any of the agencies that participate in that. So when I'm looking at that, I can get the Western LA County side, so I can get pings, hey, they got a fire dispatch. Doesn't mean there's an actual fire, it just gives you an advanced awareness. And that's what it's geared. The sheriffs may have something else that on their website and stuff like that. But that's it.
Can I do another one?
Yes.
So I did pick up, Larry, that you said that somebody is responsible, always responsible for this clearance stuff. And along Santa Rosa Road, for years and years, there's been these dead palm trees And not only are they within 10 feet of the road, which on the back of my clearance says, if you have stuff within 10 feet of your road, you gotta clear that. But also, there's lines going right to it. So for the Edison guy, it's interested that they take care of dead palms. But when I asked this question at the Oak Park workshop, the fire department person said, you know, there's no structure near that dead palm tree. And the road's wide enough for our trucks to go by without getting flamed by it. So there really isn't anything we can do about having that removed. And I was like, that was unsatisfactory, and still unsatisfactory to me. Because I know those things go up like Roman candles. So what's the deal?
Well, the response you got is actually correct. You have to understand there's legal regulation requirements that if we're going to enforce something. Whether if the recommendation, that'd be great. People clear, bigger areas and stuff, but we can't enforce anything on that. So there's no legal requirement except, when it comes to roadside clearance, what we have in mainly we're dealing with the narrow roads, the driveways where it's tight access, the rural type roads. We're dealing with your major thoroughfares. We're not as concerned with the roadside clearance for that aspect of what we're doing for fire access to it. And for the stuff that's outside the 100-foot zone, there's no requirement for us to make that person clear outside that 100-foot zone, unless you had where your person sitting next to you is in a development that had a specific condition in order to allow that development to build was agreed upon that they would do additional clearance. So that's where it comes in. Otherwise, it's recommendation. We can force that along. That issue's been brought up with the state. I've brought it up with the state fire marshal's office, Cal Fire and stuff before. I've been, because I'm one of the ones that sit in a lot of some of these committees for our department representing forestry, state fire marshal, fire prevention officers. Last Ventura County just hosted the mutual aid summit for statewide summit for a lot of fire chiefs and agencies throughout the Office of Emergency Service for the mutual aid system, how it works in California. And then they had a day and a half of the fire show of how the regulations were signed by fire service. And then Director Cal Fire was there, acting state fire marshals there, so I've had some one-on-one conversations with them. But that is in some of these presentations they do. There's a lot of stuff from the Cal Fire website on webinars. I think there's 2 a month that are out there for the public to hear about. Amazing fact though, roadside starts is one of the leading causes when it comes to fires. And it's made change strategies and so forth. Most of those are, exhaust particles. Most of those are more in the rural areas, but there's no regulations yet to enforce that any type of clearance. California is doing more mitigation on the state highways in there. It's something we've been looking at whether we can force our county to, do clearancing along the roadways there. But I will point out in the unincorporated area, county is only responsible, even though you may say, hey, we got a right of way 60 feet, that road's 20 feet, there's a small shoulder. That's where the county's liability responsibility stops. Any of that other undeveloped portion of that property up to the person's property line fronting it, that property owner is actually in the county ordinance. It goes back to health and safety code, state highway code. It's actually responsible for clear the weeds along that if they're different direction to it. But again, we don't look at it unless it's within the 100-foot of the structures or these narrow access. But that is a good question because it's something we're still looking at. What are the ways we can reduce the risk to our communities?
Just want to add something to that. Sir, we can connect afterwards and I can get the cross streets. I can have one of our local veg crews go out and inspect and see if there's something we can do.
Oh, great.
That'd be great, because right under some wires, it looks like they need to cut, like, oh, let's just cut off the top 4 feet, and then the rest of it's all dead, it's a dead plant. Just like,
And there was all this talk about embers going a mile away. So it seems like the science of, just right there, something should be done because the embers could fly a mile, and that's a big ember producer. that dead palm?
Well, you have, the palm itself is, you have to understand, is trees themselves, the palm trees. They need, most likely, they need something else to ignite them. They just don't readily catch on fire. There's gotta be another fire somewhere else. They need the ladder. fuels. So by thinning out the trees, removing the dead palms and stuff, that will help reduce that risk and stuff. There's been more studies about certain types of trees being used as ember streams that reduce the amount of embers coming in. I will comment though, in conjunction with Edison, is there is requirements by law for them to provide line clearance. There's requirements to provide under what they call non-exempt poles. You'll see them clear 10 feet out around the poles and stuff, because that's still required to do that. Fire department, along with a lot of the fire agencies in Southern California, we go through what they call Operation Santa Ana, to where they have a kickoff on what they're trying to do that each year for fire prevention measures from their equipment. And then we go out after we finish our defensible space for the homes, we'll hop in with a local Edison rep, and we'll go out and randomly survey areas of the county. Are they doing their pole clearance? Is there areas with line clearance? So we're doing a quality control on top of they're already doing quality control. Both Edison and PG&E up north have basically started to hire a lot of the retired fire service people with operational background, because they're building their fire components to try and address that issue of how can they, as a utility provider, reduce the risk of ignition. It's a lot for them to do, but we all want that power too. So we try to work together on what we can to help out.
That is a very simple interface question between city and Southern California Edison. Because in our city, we believe oak tree, it is some holy thing we cannot move. It's a very simple case, the Monte Street T intersection, high voltage electrical post and the oak tree are mixed together. So for that kind of situation, since we cannot remove the cover the tree, oak tree, but during the high wind, scenario wind season, high speed wind may damage either tree or high voltage post. So is it possible we reroute that kind of post to stay away oak tree?
I apologize for not understanding everything, but I think one thing we can talk about for Edison, okay. But there's also an issue about the trees, because
Right.
you
That
can't,
is the city.
yeah, but you can't trim stuff. So we'll let Edison go, but we can talk about what you do with protecting trees.
Yeah, there's definitely more to it, it's even more involved. We probably have to get one of our arborists to get more specific information. Now about rerouting lines and all that, that's a larger endeavor, that's a deeper conversation. That definitely requires city involvement and a lot of communication behind it.
Right, because it is very simple in the mountain tree to the earth, the T intersection somewhere, in there, there's a tree and the high voltage posting, they are mixed together. They stay there for years.
One thing that I think that's really calling my attention is, I think I want to know where this location is.
I can make a sketch for you. I believe he knows that more than us. Right.
I don't think Larry will comment, but we can look at the individual location that you're referring to.
Yeah.
But from a combination of Edison taking a review, but the city also has abilities to trim and manage oak trees on your behalf, or depending on where this tree is.
I can make a sketch for you. Yeah.
Well, just give us a location. We can look into that.
Yeah, okay, opportunity, yes, thank you.
Yeah, so a lot of jurisdictions have protected tree ordinances that go beyond just oak trees. This, they have heritage trees, etc. However, trees continue to grow, structures, impacting it, or they impact the access. You have the ability to do pruning on those trees. But you have to make sure you check with the local jurisdictions tree ordinances on what you're allowed to do without a permit and what would require a permit. And they vary by each jurisdiction. If we see a hazard tree that we deem is a hazard, we can take immediate action. Like example, we had one in the Ventura park. It was starting to lean. And it was an oak tree, but it's already been chopped in different locations and stuff, but it was starting to lean. And to us, that was deemed to be a hazard tree because if it came down, it was going to impact a couple homes behind it. It was in the unincorporated area, so we took a picture, we let the county know, and the property owner was given permission to immediately abate that hazard tree without having to get a permit, without having to replace it because of the situation of the tree's health. So there is ways you can do that, but if you do have concerns, if involving power lines and stuff, contact Edison. If you think it's on city property or items, contact the county or the city jurisdiction, and they'll help work you through it. If it's on your own property or your house and you think it's impacting your defensible space, talk to your local fire station about it. They'll evaluate it, look at it, and let you know whether or not it needs to be taken care of. And normally, if it's necessary to meet the defensible space laws and regulations, then it's a little bit easier of a process to go through to do it.
Thank you. Yes, we're gonna do one last question. And then visit the table if you have one other question.
Thanks to everybody for being here. Appreciate it very much. Another question for Larry. Well, anybody else can answer it if you want, but it's going to come down to you at the end of the day, which is we are at the end of the day. Big question. Each year, the fire, the fuel changes. Yeah, this year we know it's going to be some of the areas around my place will be 6 feet high. It already is 5.5 feet. A few years ago, it was 2 or 3 feet high. But that 100 feet doesn't change. 100 feet makes a lot of sense for 90% of Thousand Oaks, all this area. But in the open spaces where we live, 3-4 acres, horse ranches, why don't you have the discretion to using the science saying this is going to be a hotter, quicker burning fire, a lot more fuel. We're going to this year decide that you, the city or whoever owns that property will have to trim back more because it is a fire hazard. 100 feet obviously is not a miracle where nothing changes beyond that level. Do you have discretion like you have with the trees?
Again, where we're looking at, unfortunately, it's not going to be the answer, may not be the answer you want to hear is 100 foot. That's the state law. That's been our regulation for years. People ask, well, why don't you go to 200 foot like Valley County does, like Valley City does? Again, we have in certain areas mitigation measures, but we've also looked at over the years the studies and the science behind what the defensible space is for. And it's they created that area at the house and near the house to reduce the impact of an oncoming wildfire. Embers getting in there, again, it's not the flame run, embers getting in there and readily igniting the house, which unless people harden their homes, we're not going to be able to do it. You heard Matt talk about the Thomas fire. The embers were going a mile in front. We're not going to clear a mile of open space. The environmental impact of that is going to be huge. And then you also have the conflicting laws about protecting the environment, the plants, the species. The Open Space Agency's mission is to manage that open space in the biological aspects of it more. So we do look at that, but we've also seen over the years the science and stuff when they go through the training for the whole mission, its own process for that evaluation. They go through the science as part of that training and they show it. We're talking about people who have been involved in this for decades. And same thing I've been trying to do is see, not just listen to them, but have been out there, experienced, and then go after and see what happens, what the fire's doing. Part of it is the whole thing about mission infrastructure, because it's a newer concept coming out. It's not written down really anywhere yet. It's not required. But until just recently, in the revision to the state law of defensible space, and it talks about the reduction of inverse, we're doing vegetation reduction, invasive trees, things that can reduce the inverse approach to the structures. And that's the retaining certain vegetation, not removing it. Unofficial, there was a study up in the Tahoe and the impacts of a fire coming through. The areas that had clear cut and had just open, just imagine a wind tunnel and just blown. Versus the areas that had trees and other things where things were broken up, more damage and loss in the areas that were more exposed than that. So it's a balance it's trying to look at. As far as fuel heights, yeah, they grow, they vary all the time. So years we got no growth, but again, it's back to that science. Start with your house, work your way out and reduce that risk there, and you're more likely to survive through a wildfire. Thank you.
Thank you. So that concludes the question and answers. If you have more questions, all the organizations have tables around the auditorium. You can go and ask them. I also want to give a shout out. If you have questions about you want to use goats to get rid of some of your vegetation, you got a goat guy in the back. We got the Red Cross to help you with evacuation. We got the Independent Living Resource Center here to help you out as well. So please walk around, gather some information before you head out. So thank you all for attending.